Welcome to the Long Way Through Scripture. I'm Catherine Schaefer. This is a slow week-by-week walk through the Bible, taken without rush or pressure. Each week we'll gently orient ourselves to where we are in Scripture, what kind of ground we're walking on, and one simple reflection to carry with us as we read. This isn't a daily reading challenge or checklist. You can start wherever you are, move at your own pace, pause when life gets full, or return later. There's no catching up required here, just the invitation to stay with the text, one passage at a time. And I'm really glad you're here. So let's begin. This is week 12. We are in Joshua, stepping into what was promised. As we open the book of Joshua, the story moves forward in a way that feels both familiar and entirely new. The wilderness is behind the people now. The long season of wandering, formation, and waiting has come to an end. What once felt distant and almost unreachable is now directly in front of them. The land is no longer a promise spoken about in the past. It is something they can see. And yet, even at this moment, there is no sense of rushing. The transition is steady, grounded, and intentional. Moses is gone. Joshua steps into leadership, not as a replacement in personality or presence, but as someone called to continue what God has already begun. The opening words given to Joshua carry both reassurance and responsibility. He is told to be strong and courageous, not because the path will be easy, but because God's presence will remain with him. This is a continuation of the same promise that has carried the people from the beginning. The crossing of the Jordan River echoes the crossing of the Red Sea, but the tone is different. This is not an escape from oppression. It is an entrance into promise. The people step forward, carrying with them the memory of what God has done and the anticipation of what lies ahead. There is a moment where the waters stand still and the people pass through. It is both a reminder and a marker. The same God who brought them out is now bringing them in. As the story unfolds, we begin to see the complexity of what it means to step into what has been promised. The land is not empty. There are cities, people, and resistance. The promise does not remove the need for courage or obedience. It invites the people into a process that requires both trust and action. The fall of Jericho is one of the most well-known moments in this book, but it carries a tone that is easy to misunderstand if we move too quickly. The instructions are unusual. The people walk, wait, they circle. They remain quiet until the appointed moment. This is not a story about strategy in the way we usually think of it. It is a story about obedience that does not always make sense in the moment. The outcome is not achieved through strength or cleverness, but through a willingness to follow what God has said, even when it feels unfamiliar. And yet, even in the midst of this movement, the story does not present the people as flawless. There are moments of misstep, moments where decisions are made without seeking God, where the weight of the situation becomes visible again. The narrative does not hide these realities. It allows us to see that stepping into promise does not eliminate human weakness. It simply places that weakness within a story where God continues to work. As the chapters continue, the people move through the land. There are victories, but there is also a sense that this is not a simple or clean process. The land is taken in stages. The story moves forward, but it does not rush toward completion. There's something important in that pacing. The promise is real, but it unfolds over time. It is not received all at once, and it does not remove the need for continued trust. As the land begins to be divided among the tribes, the tone of the book shifts again. Movement slows, the focus turns towards inheritance, boundaries, and the shaping of life in a settled place. This part of the story can feel quieter, even less dramatic, but it carries its own kind of significance. The people are no longer just travelers, they are becoming a community rooted in a place. Each tribe receives a portion. Each family begins to settle. The promise takes on a new form, one that is less about movement and more about presence. The land becomes not just something they enter, but something they are meant to steward. There's also a sense of continuity with what has come before. The instructions, the rhythms, the awareness of God's presence does not disappear once the people arrive. If anything, they become more important. Life in the land will require the same attentiveness that sustained them in the wilderness. As we move towards the final chapters of Joshua, the tone becomes reflective again. Joshua gathers the people and speaks to them in a way that echoes what Moses did before him. There is a looking back, a recounting of what God has done, a reminder of how the story has unfolded. The people are invited to remember. They are reminded that it was not their strength that had brought them into the land. It was not their ability that secured what they now have. It was the faithfulness of God working through every stage of the journey. And then comes a moment of decision. Joshua speaks words that have echoed through generations, a call to choose whom they will serve, not as a forced demand, but as an honest recognition that the life ahead will be shaped by the direction of their hearts. The people respond with confidence. They declare their intention to remain faithful, to continue walking in the path that has been set before them. It is a moment filled with clarity, though the story itself leaves room for the understanding that faithfulness is something lived out over time, not decided in a single moment alone. The book closes quietly. Joshua's life comes to an end. The people settle, the land holds them, and the story pauses, not because it is finished, but because it is ready to move into its next phase. As you read through the book of Joshua this week, you may notice how different this part of the journey feels compared to what came before. The wilderness is no longer the primary setting. The promise is no longer distant. And yet, the need for trust remains. The reflection to carry with you this week is this: stepping into what God has promised still requires trust, patience, and continued obedience. The arrival is not the end of the story. It is the beginning of a new way of living. As you read, allow yourself to notice the movement, the tension, quiet transitions from journey to settlement, from promise to presence. Stay with the unfolding, the reminder that God's faithfulness does not end when we arrive somewhere new. The understanding that every new season carries its own invitation to trust. And that is where this portion of the journey leaves us. No longer wandering, but not finished. Standing in what has been given and learning how to live within it. As you move into the reading this week, Remember, there's no rush. Read slowly, read a little at a time, or simply sit with the passages if that's what the week allows. Scripture doesn't ask us to perform, it invites us to remain. And everything connected to this journey lives in the show notes, including the full reading plan. There is a free 5-day Start Here guide and ways to support the podcast through Patreon if you'd like to help this project continue. Think of it as the little ecosystem that holds this whole journey together. Thank you for walking this long way with me, and I'll meet you here again next week. Thank you, friends.